If everybody just took off their mask tomorrow, what could they do? Fine all of Canada? You know what Canadians are the best in the world at doing? Making excuses for not standing up for themselves because they're really afraid. Canadians are the weakest people on planet Earth. Canadians are so weak-minded and so pathetic, and I will use that word and I will say it again, pathetic, that even knowing that all they have to do is say, I'm a Canadian citizen, I don't want to take your test and I don't want to take your quarantine. They will still just shut their mouth, line up like a sheep, wait 3 hours, let them shove something way up your nose, and then pay so they can be forcibly confined. Because it's literally, all Canadians have to do is say no. But what are Canadians doing? Canadian men in particular, they're walking around on their knees, wearing 2 masks, telling everybody that compliance is a virtue. Why? Because they're cowards. It's that simple. If you're wearing a mask, if you're keeping your business closed, you're a coward, and you're the reason we're in this mess. So I'm seeing mothers standing up. What am I seeing from men? I'm seeing men shun me. I'm seeing men say, put on a mask. I'm seeing men put masks on their families. You know what you guys are? You're losers. If you're a man and you put a mask on your wife and children, you are a loser. Look at yourself in the mirror and repeat after me. I am a loser. I do not mince words. I'm not here to coddle you, impress you. Canadians have been coddled enough. That's why we're in this mess. So parents, it's time to wake up. Parents, look in the mirror. It's time to stand up for your children. There's no more excuses. 2 weeks has been 52 weeks, and they have no plans to take the mask off your kids. They have no plans to remove these restrictions. So, what are you going to do? You parents should be ashamed of yourselves. You can tell yourself any excuse you want. Look me in the eye and tell me that you're not harming your children. You know you are. So if you're not actively fighting for your children to be mask-free in school, if you're not going with other parents in your school, working together and demanding that your child's rights be restored, you are not a parent. You are an enabler, and you are sacrificing your child's innocence, you are sacrificing their well-being, and you are sacrificing their future. You are killing their potential, and you are bringing a child that could have come up here, and you're making sure that they'll never get past here in society. And you're breeding an entire generation of completely terrified, compliant, unthinking drones that won't even be able to walk through a doorway unless there's a dot on both sides and someone to tell them when it's safe. Ladies and gentlemen, your child at school is trying to learn. They're trying to develop mentally and physically. Putting a mask on their face and putting them through social distancing, standing on little dots, waiting their turn, single file, one side of the hallway, one desk, no recess, sitting in little sections, all that stuff is psychological and physiological trauma on a grand scale, and it's over a prolonged period in an academic setting where they're supposed to be learning. So they come into school with this mindset to learn knowledge, learn life skills. And all they're learning is to be afraid. And all they're learning is to follow orders. And all they're learning is to wear this mask 24/7. They're literally making children wear the mask inside, outside, and some schools make them wear it while they eat, pull it down between bites and eat it. And if they want to be able to breathe, they give them a little punch card, and every time you do a good deed or a favor for the school, they cross one check off. And after you've done a certain amount of good deeds, you can get a 5-minute mask break. You're literally allowing them to abuse your children to the point where they have to do work for air. And you think this is not bad for your children? You think this is not going to have a lasting psychological and physiological impact? You think that wearing a mask for 10 hours a day doesn't block the type of oxygen required to their little tiny brains that are still developing? So we got people so emotionally manipulated and so disheartened, and they're so weak that they will literally pay for their own forcible confinement. It's absolute insanity when they know that all they have to do is say no. That's even worse than slavery. Slaves are forcibly confined, but they don't pay for it. If everybody grew up, became adults, decided that, hey, I'm not going to follow rules just because somebody told me to. I'm going to follow rules if they actually make sense, if it's actually going to benefit myself and my family. I'm not going to follow a rule that's going to absolutely destroy my life and my family's future. They're following it because they're scared. That's what this comes down to, fear. And people are afraid because they watch their TV. I tell everybody, turn off your TV. You won't be depressed anymore. You won't be afraid anymore. You don't see people dying all around you until you turn on TV. They're telling you everyone's dying, you're going to die, wear your mask, listen to public health, or you're dead. That's basically what the message is. So until people understand, until we can change their perception that, number one, this is not about your health and safety. This is about complete control and dominance of your life for forever, then once they change their perception, the propaganda stops working. Or if people just stop watching TV, their entire outlook would change. But they'll never do that because people are addicted to TV like they're addicted to drug. The TV tells them what to think, who to like, who to hate, how to dress, what to eat, and apparently exactly how to live. I'm not a psychic. I don't just pull things out of the air. The things like the vaccine passport that I warned about on our last live, and now they just admitted like yesterday that they're looking at it, that was already in the cards in 2018. I shared clips showing this, that it was intended even before COVID was a thing. And people said, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. Now that it's coming out and they set up these nice quarantine hotels and all these travel restrictions and all these other restrictions, they're hoping that the Canadian public will jump at the chance to get vaccinated and get a little certificate that tells them, now you can have your freedom back. And really, it's not freedom, because then you're going to have to get 4 vaccines every year. Remember I told you that too? Well, I heard about the mandatory quarantine hotels, and I knew right away it's a complete violation of our rights. And the only reason they're doing it is because they want to convince you to accept the vaccine passport. I want to stress that. Everything that they're doing, closing your business, closing your gym, forcing you to wear a mask, all the stuff they're doing is to try to convince you that it's a good idea for you to go along with this idea of a vaccine passport so they can vaccinate you multiple times a year, every year, and then use that as an excuse to prevent you from travel, work, congregating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I put my number public. I put it on Rebel. I put it on Instagram. I put it everywhere because I want to help everybody that wants to help themselves. Because I know once I help that one person, they're going to tell a whole bunch of other people. And those other people are finally going to grow a set of balls, and they're going to stand up to this tyranny. Once again, everything they're doing to you is to make you accept this vaccine passport that's been in the works for years. It's not a brand new thing that they're just announcing now just because you saw it on TV now and you think it's new. No, for years this has been a plan. And COVID is the avenue they're using to sell it to you. Once you give in to medical tyranny and you do not have bodily autonomy, and they can literally forcibly inject you with whatever they want as a pretense for you to live your life, are you free? Absolutely not. That's the most invasive violation of our rights thus far. And that's why they waited an entire year of demoralizing you and destroying your life and making you as hopeless as possible, so you will not just accept it, you will beg for it. That's what they're doing. They're doing psychological warfare on you to weaken you to the point where you will not only accept defeat, you will accept perpetual defeat for the rest of your life. Mask mandates should not even be a thing. 16 of the U.S. states no longer have mask mandates. They do not have higher case rates than anybody else. North Dakota went even a step further and passed a law making mask mandates illegal. Imagine that. Here in Canada, you're told that you're a psychopath, a grandma killer, anti-science if you don't want to wear a mask, while other countries are passing laws to make mask wearing illegal. So that's how brainwashed Canadians are and how manipulated via their emotions.
Exactly. A couple times.
And they even talk about the masks in the gym. They say that they're following public health advice to make you wear a mask in the gym, which it doesn't take a genius. It takes common sense to realize that exercising while wearing a mask is not good for you. It's pressure from the government. It's that simple. The government wants compliance. That's all they want. They want you to comply with the mask because the masks are the basis of all the other restrictions. If they can get everyone wearing the mask, number one, it perpetuates the idea that there's something to be afraid of. Number two, it shows your submission, it shows your compliance, and it literally muzzles your voice. Number three, it tries to tell everybody you're doing your part, so they use a guilt trip on you to make you wear it. But there's no real science behind mask wearing. Yeah. I know a 4-year-old child who got an exemption, a little girl, and the teachers are in on this, and the other parents are in on this, and the school actually supports this to try to get compliance back. They told this little girl she could come to school without a mask. Then when she went to school without a mask, they literally told all the other kids to stay away from her, including her friends. So this little girl was so traumatized, she came home crying to her parents, begging them to allow her to wear the mask so her friends would talk to her. And that's the type of coercion we're up against. But they're not just doing it to children, they're doing it to every segment of society. I want to give someone little stats. If you look, they'll talk about it in mainstream media. They'll tell you in Ontario, 90% of those that they've given out, and there's tens of thousands, are unresolved. So how did they resolve the other 10%? Some idiots are idiots and just paid the fine without trying to fight it or without trying to do their option. But the vast majority of people that said they wanted to fight it would get something in the mail from the government called an early resolution. So they basically tell you to plead guilty to the fine, and instead of paying $880, you'll pay like 75 bucks. So a lot of people rather just pay that $75 than go to court. So that's the only way you will pay these tickets. If you're either too stupid and just pay it, or you say you want to fight it and they give you an early resolution and you decide to plead guilty just for the non-hassle of it. But if you get a fine, no matter what it says, it could say $1 gazillion on it. If you fight in court, you will win, period.